Estamos de regreso en Vis a Vis con Orfeo Quagliata. Orfeo, justamente antes del corte te estaba preguntando que en uno de esos momentos de insomnio que tienes una metamorfosis kafkiana,
Sí.
¿en qué pieza te convertirías
Sí.
y por qué sobre todo?
Pues yo creo que de mis procesos más icónicos y divertidos son los sesos de Jimi Hendrix, lo llamo. Es una técnica de hervir el vidrio donde se pones el color, el opaco arriba y el translúcido abajo y creas burbujas y lo llevas a 1900 grados y torturas el vidrio totalmente. Pero luego bajan los colores y se va dentro del vidrio translúcido. Entonces realmente estás atrapado en un mundo como en la película Superman, en el primero. Cuando el malo se hizo la cosa en el país, en el mundo de Superman, llegó el vidrio plano y la aplastó y luego lo llevó el vidrio plano de regreso. Entonces me puedo estar dentro de mis Jimmy's Brains con mucho gusto.
¿Y cómo llegaste a esa técnica?
Práctica, muchísimos millones de dólares de pruebas y años de hacer cosas horribles y feos hasta que ya por fin
O sea, no es coincidencia que tienes, o sea, muchos de tus experimentos
Sí.
no son por coincidencia que llegas a ellos.
Sí, siempre digo que hay tres tipos de diseño. Hay coco a papel, a prototipo, a producción. Hay este diseño por coincidencia y hay diseño cuando vas directo a la fábrica porque ya sabes exactamente lo que quieres hacer. Pero sí hay muchas cosas que pasan en la vida o en la fábrica que dices, ay, a ver, entonces a veces cuando se nos olvidamos de abrir un horno cuando estamos terraformando y se lavar la cosa, que había un accidente en periférico y cayó un tráiler allá, entonces no pudimos llegar a tiempo para abrir el horno, pero vimos una cosa que dije, no, esos pueden ser capelos para hongos. Y hice 873 hongos en 3 meses.
Ya lo vi.
Sí, entonces...
Oye, ¿y cómo los medios han contribuido, parte de un diseñador y parte de lo que es trendy,
Ajá.
se forma mucho con este sentir de los medios, con esta tendencia, y tú estás en tendencia? ¿Cómo han contribuido los medios a propagar tu arte y a la vez a retroalimentar tu arte?
No sé.
This is a very good question. People that tends to happen in this show.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get a lot of. It helps you get more known around the world. Like I've been interviewed. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Sure.
Videos like that, right?
Yeah.
Magazines, and when I used to do all the shows in New York and in Europe and in Japan and in Australia, it's like since you're the foreigner doing something that's different with glass, there's always an attraction to like, what is he doing and how does he do it? Even other glass artists sometimes they go, well, how did he do that, right? So there's a lot of, it's just different, right? So when you do something that's a bit different, people like to know about it and want to try and figure out why.
You say that you break the boundaries, and a lot of your conversations, you break the boundaries, and that's how you describe your art. What do you mean by that, breaking the boundaries?
Well, it's more like pushing the material. So I'm pushing the material when it can't be done, or when somebody challenges me. Like once in college, a teacher told me you can't fix glass to wood, and I said, watch me, right? So I figured out a way to do it. And so it's like whenever I can't figure something out in glass, I'm trying to figure out how to beat the material, or to interact with it, or to love it. But it's like there's certain things that you can do, and there's certain things you can't. When you can't, I always try and think if there is a way to get around it.
Glass is a very ancient art. Do you ever go back and try to figure out how the masters of centuries ago used to do certain techniques, or re-explore the past to be able to translate it to the future?
Well, I mean, now we've got computers and stuff.
No, really.
It's more just the respect. Like even in the 70s, one of the guys that taught at my school, Clifford Rainey, he would have to sit by the kiln all night long and check it because there wasn't a computer program to get it to when it was the right temperature, and you didn't know how to do that. So he had to stand there all night long and wait for it. So like, people used to have to interact much more, and everything was much more painstaking, because if you're slightly a few degrees off, the piece of glass is ruined. So now we have a computer program that we can read the readouts of what's been happening in the kiln, but back in the day that just wasn't so especially with the Italians and the Egyptians, right?
Exactly. They have, the computers have simplified the art or the technical part, but there is always this boundaries to explore for an artist to be pushing it, and that's what you have done in many ways, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, since my passion is just futzing around with glass, I'm always...
It's a very nice way to put it.
I'm always making new stuff and seeing, I mean, I blow all the money the company can ever make by doing new samples, but that's, It is what it is.
But that is a good point. I mean, how do you keep there is always a fine balance that you're constrained in your finances as an artist and you're not free to be able to do something. Have you felt limited by the economic part?
No, never. I'm always right on that line.
I always have plenty the red line.
I'm always right on that line. So I always have plenty of money to do whatever I want, but there's never any money in the bank.
If you would have chosen a different tendency in art where you could explore, or maybe even let's go to the past, where would it have been born in this artistic movement and why?
I would have to say, I think I'm kind of a caveman. So I would. My dad always says you're more Neanderthal than most. So I'd have to say that, you know, part monkey, part man, and, you know, maybe like trying to figure out how to make fire. That would have been cool. Painting on caves, stuff like that. I mean, I think I'm in that era is when I would have felt my most creative.
Allora, cambiamo un po' in italiano perché so che ti piace parlare anche in italiano.
Va bene, va bene.
Dimmi, perché Messico? Perché c'è una tradizione di vetro qui a Messico molto importante.
Sì, sì.
Allora, perché l'hai scoperto un po'? Cosa hai fatto per cambiarla? E anche più importante, cosa hai fatto per dargli qualcosa di nuovo?
In Messico c'è una cultura molto vecchia del vetro, no? Però è un vetro riciclato, entonces hanno delle burbuche dentro, però una tecnica molto, molto bella, che ha, non so, 500 anni, la verità non so, però io con Michael Kramer, che è il dueño del Nouvelle Studio, abbiamo fatto tentare a fare un movimento di vetro messicano nuovo. Quindi c'è quell'altro che è il vidrio riciclato, che c'è il cobalto sopra il bicchiere, però adesso stiamo tentando a fare un cristallino un po' più fino, però messicano.
Stai traducendo questo arte messicano, stai traducendo ad esempio l'estetica che esiste nei mercati come Dubai, come New York, come tutte queste città del mondo.
Sì, sì.
A volte gli artigiani messicani non la capiscono. Tu stai aiutando a tradurre questa voce dell'artista messicano a questa voce internazionale cosmopolita? Come si fa quello?
Più che altro gli artigiani mi aiutano a me.
Sì.
E sono loro che dittano di vez in quando.
A volte.
A volte che quello che facciamo nel vetro, perché come stiamo parlando delle cose che si scambiano nell'orno, che facciamo delle sbaglie, quelle sono le cose che mi fa fare creativo.
So if you would have to close your eyes, if you would have to describe your essence, the essence of your art, to a person that cannot see, because it's very visual, your art,
right,
how would you describe it?
Fun. I think that I have a lot of fun making it, and I hope that's transmitted in the way that it looks. Sometimes we do elegant things, sometimes we do playful things, sometimes we do very technical things, scientific things. Like we've been making these glass eyeballs, essentially, where it's actually the glass iris. And we've been playing with projections and making our own LEDs and all sorts of that, all kinds of things like that. So it's like the projection, right? So you were talking about light and color before. Now we're actually doing that and getting into projections. And that's my new plaything.
Do you have any favorite color that you identify with, or all the colors are?
I would say I don't have a favorite color, but I have lots of favorite combinations of colors. Like one color in and of itself to me is boring. But when you combine two colors, like gray looks great with everything, gray and green, gray and orange. Like, you know, yellow and aqua is one of my new favorites. Brown and pink together, I love. So to me, there's no one color in particular, but I have a lot of favorite combinations that I use.
But you seem to be very perfectionist in many things, and I've heard you in other interviews that you have to get the color right. Why is that? What is right and wrong in a color? I mean, why do you go through those limits?
I suppose you know it when you see it, right? I mean, I always say that my personal life is a disaster, but in work...
Let me take note and just lay back and we start with...
Yeah, exactly. We get on the cushion.
We can do an interview of that.
Exactly,
another moment.
We'll be on the couch later. So yeah, my personal life's a disaster. I'm a total mess. I'm a slob. But when I get into work and when I'm producing something, there can't be a scratch on it. Everything has to be perfectly detailed. I'm a really anal retentive when it comes to work, but not in my personal life.
How do you manage those extremes? I mean, it's very different. You have different personas. Well, I see that you have a bipolar shirt.
Yes, I'm definitely
Can that
bipolar.
help to explain a little bit of...
I think so. I mean, I don't know if I manage everything very well. I just kind of, I'm barely functional.
What have you learned in glassmaking that you can translate to your life? What learning process have you experienced?
I can tell you, with glass, you have to be very patient. And I haven't translated that to my life, but I think that's probably the most glaring thing that you can contrast. As far as something that goes with, I mean, glass blowing is a very fast, active process. Actually, my process that I do more here is glass casting and fusing, which is kind of like Martha Stewart. So you have to be very patient. So you put the stuff in the oven. I mean, you organize your design or whatever you're doing. You put it in the oven. You know what's going to happen more or less, and then you've got to wait 3, 4, a month, sometimes days, to wait and see when it comes out of the oven. So essentially, it's just like Betty Crocker. You put it in the oven, you cook it, you take it out. So there's a lot of patience involved. And sometimes my guys are like, because I start opening the kiln because I want to see it. Sometimes they'll thermal shock the glass and it'll break. So I have to like try and be patient to wait to see what comes out of the oven.
So you're very patient, I can see that.
Yeah.
And when glass blowing, how did you get, I mean, was your father the one who taught you how to blow the glass?
Well, I started going to Pilchuck, it's a glass school that Dale Dragoli and my dad started kind of in the 70s and 80s, early 80s together. So I think I went there the first time when I was like 3 or 4, and I went dozens of other times. And that's where there was glass blowing everywhere, and I just kind of, picked up a stick and started blowing with the guys.
And now I see that people that are going to see it afterwards, you're starting to, you also paint the Rorschach.
Yeah, my Insomniacs.
Your Insomniacs paintings. How did you get that idea? And do you see hidden meanings? Do you put sometimes hidden meanings in your work or not?
Only if you see them. It's like whatever you see. It's exactly like the ink block test. It just comes out the way it comes out.
Let's not go there.
It's a lot, exactly. There's always certain things you see.
Yes, they're
in the dark of the night.
repetitive.
But yeah, that's what I do essentially. We were talking about this. I can't sleep much, so at night when I get home, I make myself dinner and then I sit down and I start making some of my paintings, and that kind of calms me down so that I can start the process of getting into bed. But I make every single night. I kind of have my routine, and then one day some friends came over and I literally had hundreds of them stacked up all over the places. Some on like terciopelo or velour, some on plastic, some on wood, some on paper, some with different paints and acrylics and oils and watercolor papers. Yeah, millions of different tests everywhere. And some friends came over and said, "Orfeo, why don't you frame these?" I was like, "Why?" I was like, "These aren't like for sale or to show." And they were like, "Well, give me some." So I gave a bunch of them to him. He framed a bunch and put them on the wall. I was like, "Wow, that looks cool."
It's a shame that I wasn't there. Now they're. And let's say, for instance, that what would you say to these new artists that are trying to usually make this fusion? Your art is a very varied in many senses. You are doing glass, you're doing painting, you're doing. What advice would you give to these new artisans, and where can they learn your craft?
My craft, you gotta go to Pilchuck. You gotta go to glass. There's a really great glass school. But yeah, for new people coming up, it's gonna be frustrating and it's gonna be hard. And if you can withstand the storm, then go for it.
How do you deal with frustration?
I get frustrated.
But then you create. You smash things. You smash glass.
Smash much. I'm not an angry person.
No, you're not. Strike me as one.
So I just deal with it. Like when something breaks in the factory, sometimes I have to go and I have to walk away, and then I come back and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do next? Like as a kid that grew up in a glass factory, if you are affected when a $30,000 piece of yours breaks, then you better find another profession because it happens.
Orfeo, unfortunately the time has run out. I thank you very much for being in this program.
Thank you.
Amigos, muchísimas gracias por seguirnos en Vis a Vis y nos vemos la próxima semana. Gracias. Hasta pronto.